Is Mickey Mouse about to lose his house? It seems woke Disney fairy tales equal low ticket sales. Box office analysis of Disney's last 8 studio releases show a shocking loss of nearly $1 billion. That's almost a lawsuit. It's gotten so bad, Cruel DeVille is selling dogs at Chipotle. Pocahontas had to open a casino. And Peter Pan had to cancel his gender affirmation surgery. Sorry, Peter. That's according to a number crunch by prominent YouTuber Valiant Renegade, who argues that many of Disney's recent so-called hits barely broke even or flat out tanked. That includes big-budget Marvel movies like Black Panther 2, Ant-Man 3, as well as animation bombs like Strange World and Lightyear, and my favorite, Snow White and the 7 Drag Queens. The latest Indiana Jones, also produced by Disney, could suffer a similar fate if the terrible reviews are anything to go by. It doesn't look good. I'm told 80-year-old Indiana Jones spends the entire film looking for the men's room. For some of us, that is a treasure. And what does this say about Disney? Once a cultural icon of American family values, it's succumbed to the siren song of wokeism, devolving into an out-of-touch and desperate divorced dad bereft of imagination. Fact is, we all liked Mickey Mouse before he started scolding us about people's pronouns. But lefties can make you learn to hate everything from Disney to school teachers to sports.
Disney is in trouble, but not in the way you think. Despite headlines about box office bombs and backfiring remakes, the company isn't losing. From failed releases to extreme backlash, it seems like Disney is facing one controversy after another. And believe it or not, Disney doesn't care. It's exactly what they want. Confused? Let's break it down. You know what they say, bad publicity is still publicity. And in Disney's eyes, extreme backlash is extremely good publicity. Movies like The Little Mermaid and the upcoming Snow White remake have been in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. Whether it's divisive casting choices, comments from actors like Rachel Zegler, or just a general lack of enthusiasm from audiences. But instead of shying away, Disney embraces the drama. After all, when everyone's talking about you, love or hate, your name stays in the headlines.
October of 2005 is when Bob Iger becomes CEO of Disney. 18 years ago, he becomes CEO, right? At the time, Disney's worth $47 billion. He becomes chairman in 2012. Company's worth $90 billion. He steps down as CEO and executive chairman February of 2020 at the top, $328 billion. This is Disney Plus era, right? 2021, he steps down as executive chairman, returns as CEO November 2022. 2014 valuation of Disney was $160 billion. 2024 valuation of Disney is roughly $170 billion. In 10 years, valuation increased only $10 billion. That's not a good thing. That's 5% increase of the company's valuation in 10 years. That's like putting your money in a savings account at a bank. That's the kind of returns Disney brought. Is that correct or no, Tom?
That's exactly right, and that's why all these investors are pissed.
We've got Disney just reporting its earnings of $1.39 a share. That's well ahead. I mean, well ahead of the $1.19 estimates that had been analysts had been expecting. It's on revenue of $23.16 billion. That's also ahead of estimates. This marks the first revenue beat since May 2023. Disney's entertainment segment operating income nearly tripled to $1.2 billion. Now, that's well ahead of the $833 million the Street was looking for there. The company saying the performance strong performance was due to, quote, significantly improved results in direct-to-consumer and content sales, licensing, and other. Now, Disney.
Let's talk numbers. The Snow White remake isn't just any movie. It's the second most expensive Disney film ever, with a budget over $330 million. Shot in the UK at Pinewood Studios and other iconic locations, it wasn't just the cast that added to the bill. The production's pandemic delays piled on even more costs. And even though the UK's film tax relief scheme gave Disney a $41.1 million reimbursement, it barely made a dent in the overall expenses. High production costs have become a recurring issue for Disney. Not only are they spending hundreds of millions on making these films, but the marketing budgets are also through the roof. Disney is putting just as much into promoting these movies as they are into making them. With huge marketing campaigns stretching across social media, TV ads, partnerships with other brands, and merchandise, Disney is trying to make sure everyone knows their films are hitting theaters. But when the movie flops, those massive budgets turn into massive losses. Speaking of losses, let's look at the box office. Take The Little Mermaid, for example. Despite making headlines and being highly publicized, the film barely broke even after its release. This is becoming a pattern for Disney. They're spending tons of money on high-stakes productions only to see weak box office returns. And if a movie fails to even cover its production and marketing costs, it's a serious hit to Disney's bottom line. A big problem is that audiences are growing tired of remakes and reboots. They're not rushing to theaters like they used to. And if fans are already skeptical before the movie comes out, no amount of CGI or star-studded cast members can save it. Audience fatigue and franchise overload. Disney has long been the king of franchises, but even kings can fall. The company's recent focus on milking every possible franchise, from Star Wars to the Marvel Cinematic Universe to its classic animated films, has led to audience fatigue. People are starting to feel overwhelmed and even indifferent to the constant stream of sequels, prequels, and spin-offs. It's becoming increasingly harder for Disney to capture the same magic they had in the past when every release felt like a must-see event, changing tastes and demographics. The reality is that tastes are changing. Newer generations aren't as interested in traditional Disney content as their parents were. Younger audiences are flocking to new forms of entertainment like short-form content, gaming, and anime. And when Disney does try to cater to modern sensibilities, it sometimes backfires. Instead of attracting a fresh crowd, it can alienate longtime fans who feel Disney is straying too far from what made it great. With shifting tastes, Disney's challenge is to adapt without losing its identity. They need to figure out how to stay relevant in an era where nostalgia alone isn't enough to fill seats or boost subscriptions. Disney's financial losses on movies are more than just a temporary setback. They're part of a larger trend that's affecting the entire company. With pressure mounting from shareholders and increased competition in the streaming space, the stakes have never been higher. Disney can't afford to keep making high-budget flops or alienating audiences. They need to rethink their strategies fast, or they'll risk losing their throne as the king of entertainment. And this brings us to part 2, where we'll explore why all of this doesn't matter to Disney.
What can you tell us in terms of how things are shaping up for the direct-to-consumer business, which is such an important component of investors' view of the company?
It is. Maybe I can provide a little bit more specificity. First of all, we've done really well in terms of streaming, in the sense that we launched Disney Plus only in 2019, so it's just over 4 years ago. In a very, very short period of time, we find ourselves second to Netflix in terms of global subscribers for a pure streaming business. We know that we ended up losing a lot of money on that, more so than we expected initially. Part of that was because we were chasing sub-growth and not as focused as we needed to be on the bottom line. I came back. The losses were around $4 billion a year. It was clear that that was not sustainable and not acceptable. And the goal was, first, let's reduce those losses. And as we've said, we're going to be profitable in our fiscal fourth quarter this year. We lost, I think, $130 some odd million in the last quarter. That's a huge, huge improvement. And we know exactly how we delivered that improvement. Now what we have to do is turn it not just into a profitable business, into a growth business. A business that has margins that this company and our shareholders would really be proud of.
Double-digit margins then, right?
Eventually, yes, double-digit margins, of course. The way to do that is actually very, very clear to us. It's very, very clear that we need more engagement in terms of consumers spending time on the platform.
Believe it or not, Disney isn't panicking about these box office flops. Why? Because every headline, every controversial casting choice, and every heated Twitter debate is part of a much bigger plan. Remember when I said that bad publicity is still publicity? Disney thrives on it. It's a strategy designed to keep them at the forefront of conversation, whether it's good or bad. The truth is, Disney's not just making movies. They're making noise. And noise is exactly what they want. Keeping the brand in the spotlight. The key isn't whether The Little Mermaid or Snow White flops. It's that these movies keep Disney in the headlines. Every time a casting decision sparks outrage or an actor's comment stirs up controversy, Disney benefits. Why? Because it means more people are talking about them, sharing their trailers, and fueling online debates. It's free publicity that keeps the Disney brand alive and kicking in a crowded entertainment landscape. So even when their movies don't make as much money as they hoped, they're still winning in a different game, the game of staying relevant. Driving traffic to Disney Plus. Let's not forget that these movies are just one piece of Disney's larger content machine. Even if a movie doesn't perform well in theaters, it's still a valuable asset when it hits Disney Plus. Once the initial buzz dies down, people who skipped the theater release may still want to see what all the fuss was about. This drives traffic and subscriptions to Disney Plus, turning what seemed like a loss into a long-term investment in their streaming platform. And since Disney's real focus is on building a powerhouse streaming service to rival Netflix and Amazon, all this chatter serves a purpose beyond the box office.
This just might be the happiest guy on Earth.
Let's have some fun.
Because for more than 2,000 consecutive days, he's visited the happiest place on Earth, Disneyland.
So how many days have you been here?
Today's 2004.
You're crazy.
Jeff writes doesn't think he's crazy, but since January 1st, 2012, the 44-year-old has been at Disneyland every single day.
Are you Jeff?
I am.
Oh my gosh, you are an inspiration, sir.
His girlfriend Karen tags along a few times a week, and yup, their relationship began where else? At Disneyland.
Our first date was on day 660.
Every day, Jeff feels like a kid again, riding his favorite attractions, including the spinning teacups.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Oh my gosh.
What is your favorite thing to do when you come visit?
There's just so much magic.
I know, isn't it wonderful?
It is.
Disneyland. But here's where Disney truly wins: the parks. While movies may fluctuate in profitability, Disney's theme parks remain a solid moneymaker. In 2023, Disney parks overall earned a whopping $8.95 billion in operating income. And if you look at Disneyland's substantial 22.37% attendance share from 2022 as a benchmark, it's estimated that the beloved park contributed around $2 billion in net profit in 2023 alone. This is where Disney's genius strategy comes into play. Even if they lose a little on the big screen, they more than make up for it in theme park revenue, merchandise sales, and all the other cross-platform opportunities these movies create. That's why even a controversial remake can be a win, because it gives people more reasons to visit the parks, buy merchandise, and ultimately spend more money in the Disney universe. Merchandise, theme parks, and spin-offs. And that's not all. These remakes aren't just films. They're springboards for new toys, apparel, and theme park experiences. Even if people didn't love the Little Mermaid movie, guess what? There's a new line of Ariel dolls on the shelves, a revamped ride at Disneyland, and a whole collection of costumes for Halloween. The real profit comes not from the movies themselves, but from the merchandise and experiences that come afterward. It's the same with Star Wars and Marvel. Disney's not banking on every movie being a billion-dollar hit. They're counting on building universes that extend far beyond the big screen. If a film underperforms, it can still fuel interest in spin-offs, TV series, or limited edition collectibles. It's not about one box office, it's about creating an ecosystem where each product, each show, and each character boosts the others. Controversy sells, especially to investors. Here's the thing. Disney's aware that not everyone likes what they're doing, but controversy drives engagement. Even negative reactions mean people are paying attention, and for investors, that means Disney is still culturally relevant. When Disney is in the news, even for polarizing reasons, it reassures stakeholders that their investment is still making waves. Investors don't always care about individual movie profits. They care about long-term brand power and market dominance. And as long as Disney keeps people talking, they're proving their resilience in an ever-changing media landscape. Another reason Disney doesn't mind stirring the pot is that they're masters at rebranding. If one movie or franchise underperforms, they'll pivot, retool, and try again. They did it with Star Wars after the backlash from The Last Jedi by shifting focus to series like The Mandalorian. They're doing it with Marvel too, as they push lesser-known characters into the spotlight. For Disney, every misstep is just a chance to fine-tune their approach, learn what the audience reacts to, and come back stronger. So, while some might see these movie losses as cracks in Disney's empire, they're actually part of a calculated strategy. Disney knows that in the modern world, being talked about is just as valuable as being profitable in the short term. It's all about building a brand that dominates discussions, drives subscriptions, and creates an ecosystem where even their failures serve a larger purpose. Disney's strategy might look brilliant on the surface, but it's not without its flaws. Here's why their gamble could backfire in the long run. Disney's films aren't just movies anymore, they're marketing tools. Each new release is carefully crafted to push merchandise, theme park attractions, and Disney Plus subscriptions. Instead of prioritizing cinematic storytelling, the focus has shifted to creating movies that promote other Disney products and experiences. This approach means the quality and originality of the films take a back seat, which is why so many of their recent projects feel uninspired and overly commercial. Disney isn't driven by a love for storytelling anymore. It's about the bottom line. The emphasis is on maximizing profits from every sector, parks, merchandise, streaming, rather than creating meaningful films that resonate with audiences. The company's aim is no longer to deliver timeless classics, but to squeeze every drop of revenue from their intellectual properties. This is why audiences feel like the magic is missing. People don't connect with movies that are created to sell lunchboxes and theme park tickets. Boycotts and online outrage might dent Disney's reputation temporarily, but it doesn't have a significant impact on their overall revenue. Why? Because Disney's empire is diversified. Even if a film flops, their parks, merchandise, and streaming platform keep generating income. It's why Disney can endure backlash and continue moving forward without adjusting its strategy. Their profits from other sectors cushion the blow. Disney's true strength used to be its storytelling. Films like The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin weren't just cash grabs. They brought people together and created lifelong fans. The current strategy might generate short-term profit, but it risks losing the goodwill and emotional connection that made Disney special in the first place. The solution? Shift focus back to making high-quality, meaningful films that people want to see. Not because they're tied to a theme park ride, but because they tell great stories. If Disney doesn't pivot, the magic that once defined them could disappear for good. But will Disney listen? That's the real question, and it's a gamble they might not even realize they're making.